It began in whispers, faint murmurs in the corridors of the Louviers Convent, soft, trembling voices that seemed to belong neither to the nuns nor to the living. By the time anyone realized the whispers had names, it was already too late. This is the story of Magdelaine Bavent, a young nun whose soul, they said, was taken by demons. But others whispered that it was something far worse, that she was the victim of a conspiracy born from obsession, cruelty, and power cloaked in the garments of faith. Magdelaine was only 9 years old when her parents died. The world outside was cold to orphans, and the convent seemed safe, a place where prayers promised peace. But even as a child, she could sense that behind the holy hymns lay something darker. When she grew older, she entered the convent of Louviers, where the Mother Superior, a woman of stern devotion, kept her in line with punishments disguised as purification. It was 1625. France was deep in an age of superstition, when every misfortune, every plague, every dream could be blamed on witchcraft. Priests claimed demons walked among men, and women were often the easiest vessels to accuse. Within the walls of Louviers, Magdelaine tried to obey, to pray, to belong. But her beauty drew unwanted eyes, especially from Father Picard, the confessor of the convent. He was a man whose piety was only a mask. Behind closed doors, he twisted holy rites into tools of manipulation. He told Magdelaine that the devil had marked her, that only through his spiritual guidance could she be saved. And so began her torment. He forced her into rituals, claiming they were exorcisms. But each ritual broke her further, body and mind. By the time Father Picard died in 1628, Magdelaine was no longer the innocent girl who had entered the convent. She was quiet, withdrawn, and haunted. The nightmares began soon after. She dreamed of black shadows crawling across the walls, whispering Latin prayers and voices not their own. She awoke to scratches on her arms, bruises on her neck. The other nuns began to notice strange things: candles flickering without wind, crucifixes falling from walls, books opening on their own. At first, they pitied her, then they feared her. When she tried to speak, her voice trembled, and sometimes it wasn't even hers. There inside, she whispered one night to the Mother Superior. "They won't let me sleep." The Mother Superior crossed herself, called for priests, and soon the exorcisms began. But instead of freeing Magdelaine, they made her worse. During Mass, her body would convulse violently. Her voice, deep, guttural, nothing human, would curse the priests in perfect Latin. She spoke of sins no one had confessed aloud. She named the people she had never met. She described acts of blasphemy she could not have known. "She is possessed," they said. "The devil speaks through her." But others whispered something else, that the priests themselves had driven her to madness, that years of abuse and fear had shattered her mind. Then, one day, it spread. Another nun began screaming during prayer, claiming invisible hands were clawing at her back. Then another. Soon, the entire convent erupted into chaos. Nuns writhed on the floor, speaking in tongues, tearing at their clothes. Witnesses said they levitated, their bodies suspended like marionettes under the control of unseen forces. The church called it the possessions of Louviers. For years, the convent became a stage of horror. Exorcists came from all over France, each performing rituals, sprinkling holy water, reading scripture. But nothing stopped it. The voices continued, deep, mocking, inhuman. The nuns claimed to see the spirits of dead priests, black wings brushing the walls, faces staring from the corners of their cells. Magdelaine became the center of it all. They said she was the doorway, that through her, the demons entered. And though she tried to deny it, her voice would betray her. During one exorcism, she laughed, a sound that froze the blood of everyone present. "They never left," she said. "You brought them here." Historians later said it was hysteria, a shared delusion born from isolation, abuse, and fear. But to those who were there, it was something real. The church needed an answer, and someone to blame. Magdelaine was arrested, accused of witchcraft and of making a pact with the devil. The court interrogated her for weeks, demanding confessions. At first, she denied everything, but after endless torture, sleep deprivation, beatings, threats, her will broke. She confessed to what they wanted to hear, that she had been seduced by demons, that Father Picard had bound her to the devil through unholy rites, that the entire convent had become a playground for infernal spirits. Her confession was copied and spread across France, a cautionary tale of sin, a warning of the devil's reach. But her words, when read closely, revealed something deeper. Between the lines, there were hints, not of possession, but of manipulation. She spoke of priests who touched her in the name of salvation, of medicines that clouded her mind, of whispers that told her to confess what she never did. In 1647, Magdelaine Bavent was sentenced to life imprisonment. She was confined in a small cell where she lived out her days in silence. No exorcisms, no priests, only the sound of her own breathing and the faint echo of prayers beyond the walls. They said she died peacefully, but the guards who found her body told a different story. Her cell was cold, the air thick with a strange scent, sulfur, like burnt incense. Her hands were clasped around a rosary that had turned black, as if scorched. And on the wall, scratched with her nails, were 3 words. They never left. After her death, the Louviers Convent was closed. The church sealed its records, and the building was abandoned. Years later, when locals tried to rebuild, they said the ground beneath it still whispered, especially at night. Workers claimed to hear faint chanting from below, the echo of dozens of voices murmuring in Latin. Even today, the story of Magdelaine Bavent divides believers and skeptics. Was she truly possessed, or destroyed by a system that couldn't face its own corruption? What we know is this: a frightened young woman was caught between faith and fear, between the world of the living and the silence of the damned. And whatever haunted her in those cold stone halls, it never stopped whispering. In the end, the convent became a tomb of secrets, and Magdelaine Bavent, its eternal voice. Because some prayers are never answered, and some devils never leave.